welcome to Extra Points right here on WTAJ Plus. Riley Holsinger with you for Labor Day, and it's a great day to work. You know what? I'm not going to be the one to complain about working on Labor Day because we have a lot of football to talk about. These are the days that we have been waiting for, and you know what? I've been waiting to bring on a very special guest as well. Good friend of the program, Mr. Jeremiah Miller. He is a sports producer over at KDKA TV in Pittsburgh. Jeremiah, we're the lucky ones. We get to work today. We get to talk about some college football.
Yeah, we really put the labor in Labor Day today, Riley. So thanks
Absolutely.
thanks for having me on.
Yeah, it's a tough job to do, but somebody's got to do it. And you know what?
Somebody's got to do it.
Let's have two Waynesburg Jacket alumnus go ahead and talk some football here. So
Great day to
Jeremiah,
be a Jacket.
you got to keep your eye on like all three teams over the weekend. You got to keep your eye on Pitt. You got to keep your eye on Penn State, and you got to keep your eye on WVU because believe it or not, Morgantown's a part of the Pittsburgh market there. Not a lot of people know that, but you guys have to focus on all three there. So I figured you were a good person to bring on, chat about college football after the first weekend of the season. Kind of what were your immediate takeaways from maybe some of the local teams that you guys cover?
Yeah, so we'll start with Penn State. Help you guys out a little bit in your coverage area. Penn State did what they needed to do. I mean, they were 44.5 point favorites for a reason. Even though they didn't cover, and I know that has to eat at James Franklin. We know how he loves to cover the spread.
Yep.
Um, but Denai Dennis Sutton played like a man possessed. And like, granted, I understand, it's Nevada, but he looked great from what you need to do. He's filling in big shoes of Abdul Carter this season. So it was nice to see him come out and just be a menace to that Nevada offense. Drew Aller, he'd lost a couple pounds. That's what Gary Danielson on the CBS broadcast said. He looks it. He looked good. I mean, like I said, playing against a Mountain West defense, but still nice to see. Penn State got three really good receivers in the offseason. Kyron Hudson had a really good game, as well as Pena. And you didn't even see Devontae Ross, but you didn't really need him. And I thought Penn State dominated with running a very vanilla offense. Now Pitt, playing Duquesne, the crosstown rival, first time since 1939. Pitt did what they needed to do. Eli Holstein, you saw what I think you saw in the first 7 games last year from Eli Holstein, which is a guy that could be a potential first-round pick in the future. Granted, against an FCS defense, and then Desmond Reed. I mean, just looking like an All-American already. I mean, he's one of the best all-around offensive weapons and on special teams in the country. Now going down south to West Virginia, got a little slow start against Robert Morris, a not very good Robert Morris team, if I do say so myself.
No, not a great first half for Rich Rod's return.
No, not at all. 10-3 halftime. I mean, guys fumbling all over the field. I think they had 4 fumbles, and I mean, they end up recovering, I think, 2 of the 4, but just a very slow start for that hard edge West Virginia offense that Rich Rod likes to run. All 3 teams did what they needed to do. I thought, I mean, listen, back to West Virginia. I mean, they had like 81 new players on this team Rich Rod brought in. So, chemistry's not there yet. It's week 1 for a reason. So luckily not a lot of the premier teams in the country look kind of sloppy this week too. So I think West Virginia can get a little bye on this.
Absolutely. So let's start here with Penn State, number 2 ranked team in the country there. You tweeted before Saturday's game, it's pretty much now or never for Penn State to win a national championship under James Franklin. Do you think they should move up to number 1 and even be considered maybe the favorite during the season to win a national championship?
So no, I think
they have
Ohio
all these
State
pieces.
I think Ohio State, the fact that they beat number 1 Texas, they're the defending national champs. They didn't look offensively as good as you'd have liked to see them, but the fact that they played Texas and Penn State played Nevada, I would probably, if I had an AP vote, I would probably put Ohio State over Penn State just because of who they played. Should Penn State be the favorite to win the national title? They certainly should be right up there. I would have to say, Ohio State's probably going to be up there. Texas is still probably going to be close to the top. Yeah, Penn State's right there. I mean, they're number 2 for a reason. And it was like the smallest margin between a first and second place team, in the preseason AP poll history for a reason. So, yeah, they should definitely be one of the favorites. arguably, all the hype around this big quarterback class coming out, Drew Aller probably looked the best you could make an argument. I mean,
Absolutely.
Cade Klubnik didn't look great. Garrett Nussmeier looked good when it mattered, but it didn't look great in that first half. Uh, we could have a whole show on how bad Arch Manning was. So, yeah, I mean, they should be right up there, Riley, as far as the odds to win a national championship after week one.
Yeah, I just keep going back to the fact that they played Nevada in week one there. I mean, it's one of those things like week one can deceive you in so many different ways because the past 2 years, we've been talking about this Penn State receiving game, and the guy that always came on strong for them was Trey Wallace in week one.
Yes,
He did that again at Old Miss, by the
yes, he
way,
did.
which is insane. But that's why I feel like a little bit cautious with kind of judging this Penn State wide receiver core and a lot of things that we see in week one. Like, is it fair for me to be cautious whenever we're talking about some of these guys with Hudson, Pena, even Devontae Ross, a guy that we didn't see on Saturday?
Yeah, I mean, I get that. I mean, I'm glad you brought up Harrison Wallace because I was going to. He had like I think 5 catches for 130 yards and 5 touchdowns for Ole Miss. You remember Week 1 last year? It looked like he was going to be this breakout wide receiver. He had 2 touchdowns and I believe over 100 yards against West Virginia and Morgantown. And then that production fell off the face of the earth after Week 1. So yeah, I definitely understand that. These guys though have really good pedigree. So that makes me, I don't know if confidence is the right word, but I feel a lot better about this receiving core going forward. Um, Kyron Hudson really impressed me. I mean, he was like the third receiver in USC last year.
Yeah.
His numbers, you look at the numbers were okay. Granted, USC had pretty inconsistent quarterback play for Miller Moss, and big reason Miller Moss isn't with the program anymore. So yeah, I definitely think you could, maybe take this game and even the first 3 weeks because FIU this coming week and Villanova the week after that. You could kind of be like, have I seen enough from these guys? But I feel a lot better than I have in years past for sure, though.
Well, and the crazy thing just about Hudson's performance is he was kind of the guy I was the lowest on. I was like, wow, Penn State kind of just got USC's number 3 wide receiver.
1000%.
Yeah.
I thought the same thing. He was the guy I thought, I really was excited for Devontae Ross. I
Yep.
know he was coming from a group of 6 school in Troy, but his production there was unbelievable, and he was the guy I had the most excitement for. And that even goes over Trevor Pena, who was a lot of people had him as the number 1 receiver in the transfer portal last year. Now he looked the part. He looked good. Like I said, I think Andy Kotelnicki kept it pretty vanilla on Saturday, and I think that's also what was so impressive about how Penn State's offense looked. They were very vanilla, but still drove it down the heart of Nevada's defense and took care of business.
And one of the newer faces, we've talked about the wide receiver. We also have to talk about Jim Knowles on defense. What were kind of your early impressions? And granted, the competition wasn't great, but what were those impressions that you've had of him?
I mean, Jim Knowles is arguably one of the best defensive coordinators in the country, obviously coming off the national championship at Ohio State. I thought Penn State's defense was a lot more aggressive this year compared to last year with Tom Allen. It reminded me a lot of a couple of years ago when Manny Diaz was still running the ship for the defense at Penn State. Manny Diaz, excuse me, wasn't afraid to bring a blitz on, any down a distance. He was very aggressive in that aspect. I thought Tom Allen last year was more so, even though Penn State's defense was great last year, Tom Allen was more a bend don't break defense. And it was nice to see, you saw a lot of different packages from Jim Knowles' defense, having 5 defensive backs out at one time and not even really playing a position of the field, but just being all over the place. And I think you're going to see that defense evolve more as the season goes on from Jim Knowles as they play stiffer competition.
Jeremiah Miller from KDKA Sports joining us here. Let's move over to talking about Pitt. Destroyed Duquesne in that city game, 61-9. First matchup since 1939, as Jeremiah said earlier in the show. Jeremiah, are we sleeping on Pitt as a team this year? I feel like we kind of are.
I don't know. I think Pitt. I think Pitt's a 7 to 8 win team at best. And I guess to answer your question, yeah, I guess I might be sleeping on Pitt a little. I just Pitt has the pieces to be
Yep.
really good. I mean, Eli Holstein, I think, like I said earlier, I think he has the potential to be a first round quarterback taken. He has the look. He's got the arm strength. Desmond Reed's one of the best all around players in the country. And then the defensive side, I mean, I'd argue, off the top of my head, I would say Pitt has the best linebacker core in the country with Biles, Lovelace, and then Kyle Lewis, I think, is going to be a future All Pro in the NFL. So they have the pieces to be good. Now, Riley, if we had this episode last week, I just said sure because I thought the ACC was a lot more open under Clemson.
Yeah.
But I mean, after what I saw, the ACC might be a lot better than I thought. I mean, Florida, we'll see as the season goes on. Maybe Alabama is just not Alabama anymore, with Florida State looking like they did. Miami's obviously ranked 10th in the country. They're coming off a big win last night against Notre Dame. And Clemson loses a tough one to a very good LSU team. So I don't know. And Pitt's schedule starts off really nice, but man, it ends very, very tough against Notre Dame, Miami, and Florida State thrown in there too.
Yeah.
And a not so bad Georgia Tech team too. So I'm not saying they're going to lose 5 or 6 in a row like they did last year at the end of the year, but I could see Pitt being like a 6-1, maybe 7-0, and then kind of faltering towards the end of the year.
Yeah, I feel like the ACC is always one of those conferences that's up for grabs because we also talk so much in the national media about the Big Ten and the SEC. The SEC specifically, I mean, it was a very rough weekend for that conference right there. But I always feel like with Pitt being in the ACC, there's a chance for them. And maybe I'm more optimistic because of how Pitt started that season last year, that it gives me maybe some confidence that this is a team that can rattle off a 7-game winning streak if they had to, whether if they lose a game randomly in the middle of the season or even if they drop one to one of those teams that you mentioned, like a Miami or a Notre Dame.
Yeah, and listen, the quarterback play is the biggest telltale for the whole season. And Pitt has one of the best quarterbacks in the ACC for sure. I would put Eli Holstein right up there with the likes of Carson Beck and Cade Klubnik.
And we'll touch up here quickly on WVU because I don't think our entire viewing area really cares as much about the Mountaineers, but I know there are some fans out there. Of course, WVU with that 45-3 win against Robert Morris. Jeremiah, what would you kind of consider maybe a successful season for Rich Rod and company?
500. I mean, 6-6. I mean, if you can make a bowl game and win a bowl game, I think that's icing on the cake for this year for West Virginia. It is just, I know with the transfer portal and NIL era, it's a lot easier to make a turnaround. But man, when you got 81 new faces at one team, that just makes it so tough to win.
Yeah, absolutely.
So tough to win. And the Big 12 is no pushover this year. There's some really good competitive teams in the Big 12. So I think 6-6 is a good number for WVU. And actually, that's what I have WVU at. I think they're going to go 6-6. They might win a game that they might be, not favored in along the way. But I think 6-6, if they can make a bowl game in Rich Rod's first year and use that momentum into the years following, I think that would be a great year actually for Rich Rod in the second stint at Morgantown.
Absolutely. Jeremiah Miller from KDKA Sports joining us here. WVU fans hoping that the Mountaineers can follow that Indiana path that they went on last year to getting to the college football playoff. We're going to take a quick break here on Extra Points before we return and talk about college football as a whole. Back here on Extra Points right here on WTAJ Plus. You can watch us weekdays 3:30 to 4 o'clock. Joined alongside today by Jeremiah Miller. He's the sports producer over at KDKA TV in Pittsburgh. Jeremiah, you said earlier in the show that we could have probably talked about Arch Manning the whole show. Wasn't a great performance for him against Texas was not a great against Ohio State. Jeez, this is bad, Jeremiah. I'm confusing everything right now. Wasn't a great performance for Arch Manning against the Buckeyes there. It's one of those things, though. I'm not as concerned about it as other people. I don't know where you stand on this matter, though.
No, I agree. I'm not going to write the kid off from one game. But, boy, I can tell you it did not look good, though. he hadn't played anybody to that point. His 2 starts previously were against Louisiana Monroe and Mississippi State. So I think people were riding the Manning train basically and thinking, oh, his uncles are Peyton and Eli. Peyton's one of the best ever. Eli's a 2-time Super Bowl MVP. And Arch Manning's a redshirt sophomore or junior quarterback at Texas. He's unproven right now, but I'm not going to write the kid off right now. He also played against one of the maybe the best defense in college football on Saturday. So I'm not going to write the kid off yet, but you better hope he turns it around because he's going to face similar, if not better, defenses in the SEC.
Yeah, it wasn't a great performance from Arch. It also wasn't really that great of a performance by Julian Sayin, but I mean, it's one of those things. Like, both those guys are young quarterbacks, not much experience under their belt, at least for Arch Manning. He has a couple games. Sayin, that's his first career game, and then you're matched up against a team that's top 5 in the country, one of the best defenses out there. What did you kind of think of the reigning national champs in the Buckeyes?
Well, like I said, the defense looked great. The defense looks national championship caliber all over again. And then, like you mentioned, Julian Sayin, his first career start. Fun fact: he's the first quarterback to win his debut against the number 1 ranked team in the country since I believe the early 1980s.
Oh, wow.
Um, yeah, and I mean, listen, he definitely settled in that second half. He made that great throw to Carnell Tate, which Tate made. He underthrew it a little, which Tate made a great adjustment on the ball. But yeah, there was early in the game on a 4th and short, he had Jeremiah Smith one-on-one down the field, and when you have a one-on-one with the best player in the whole country and Jeremiah Smith, you take that shot. And he missed that a couple times, but he definitely settled in. I think Ohio State's going to be right there. They're definitely going to be in the playoffs. And like I said, they're going to be knocking on the door of a national championship at the end of this season again.
We talked a little bit as well in the last block there about Florida State's upset win against Alabama. It's just not looking too great for the Crimson Tide under Kalen DeBoer down there. Like, it's one of those things that he could get probably canned at the end of the year, maybe even during the year if this kind of keeps up.
I'd argue he has the hottest seat in the country right now. And I know that's crazy for a guy who, his team just missed the playoffs last year. They're ranked 8th in the country, and a guy who was just coaching in the national championship game 2 short years
Yeah.
ago. But the expectations are high in Tuscaloosa, and Caleb DeBoer has not lived up to them. I have a good stat for you, Riley. Since 2007, okay, when Alabama is favored by 14 points or more, all right. Under Kalen DeBoer, they are 4-4. Okay. Obviously,
Yeah.
that's just 2 years. Under Nick Saban, 138-2 when they were favored by 14 points or more in a game.
That's
So
just insane.
little pun. The tide has definitely turned in Tuscaloosa.
Absolutely. And then we talked about the Battle of Death Valley a little bit between Cade Klubnik and Clemson against Garrett Nussmeier and LSU. You talked a little bit about your impressions of Nussmeier and Klubnik a little bit there. Any other impressions from that game?
LSU's defense. I mean, both defenses, but especially LSU's defense that had a lot of questions. And Brian Kelly defense normally in big games was known to kind of come up short, but LSU looked the part on defense. And listen, all that LSU was missing last year was a defense, and they'd have been a threat in the college football playoff had they had made it. So I'm telling you what, if this defense can play the rest of the way they did on Saturday, LSU might not only be a playoff contender, but you might see the Tigers back to the national championship.
Absolutely. So, Jeremiah, rank these top 5 quarterbacks for me here. I'm going to list them off. I'll give you a little chance to make a ranking here. Let's go with 2 guys that we were just talking about. We have Cade Klubnik, Garrett Nussmeier, Drew Aller, Arch Manning, and then the 5th one, South Carolina's Lenora Sellers.
Yeah,
You good to give me a list?
Yeah, I love Lenora Sellers too.
Me too.
I think he is what everybody thought. Now, granted, he hasn't played down in the NFL yet. I think he's what everybody thought Anthony Richardson would be.
Yeah.
Like, he's a much better, cleaned up version of Anthony Richardson. Man, that's tough. If I'm going off of what I saw from Saturday, okay, I'm going to go Garrett Nussmeier, who, by the way, I was not very high on last year.
Yeah.
But I think Nussmeier in that second half uh, really impressed me. So I'll go Garrett Nussmeier 1. I'm going to go Lenore Sellers 2. I think Lenore Sellers right now he's my pick to win the Heisman. So I'm gonna ride Lenore Sellers at 2. I'll go Drew Aller 3. I mean, as you know, I have not been high on Drew Aller in the past, Riley. But Aller's really come of age, and I think Aller's right there to be a potential first overall pick. So I'll go Aller at 3. I'll go Klubnik at 4. I still think Cade Klubnik's a very good quarterback. He's got great pedigree. But then Arch Manning at 5, just because I'll probably be one of the only people in the country that have Arch Manning, and not ranked in the top 3. Maybe not after Saturday,
Yeah.
but
The Steelers
Arch
like
Manning,
it.
yeah, I Arch Manning, he just hasn't shown me anything. He's unproven still. I'm not going to ride the kid off after one game though against Ohio State.
Absolutely. So let's get to another quick segment here. We're going to call it Fast Jeremiah because of your nickname, Fast Jeremiah, from the days at Waynesburg you work in slow-mo there.
Little inside joke there.
So I'll just give you a couple topics here. You kind of just give me a 1-2 word answer if you want to. So let's go with, starting off here with, who do you think is going to win the national championship?
Penn State.
That's a bold one there from a Penn State fan himself. So you said Sellers was kind of your Heisman Trophy favorite already. Who do you think is going to be ultimately the first quarterback off the board whenever that draft's held in Pittsburgh?
Man, I'll go Nussmeier.
Do you think Sellers will ultimately win Heisman this season? You said he's your front runner. Yep. Okay.
Yeah.
Let's give you one here. Surprise playoff team.
I'll go a group of 6 team. Give me the Navy midshipmen, led by 2 Mount Lebanon South Hills guys, Alex Texa and Eli Heidenreich. Give me the Navy midshipmen making the playoff.
That's an absolutely wild one there. Well, I appreciate it, Jeremiah. Thanks for joining me. You guys can check out Jeremiah on social media. I believe it's at Jeremiah 0, at Jeremiah Miller 0. Sorry about that.
No, you're good. Thanks for having me on, Ryan.
Yeah, looking forward to having you on more during football season here. We could talk college football on Monday afternoons.
Yeah, appreciate it, Riley. Thanks for having me on, buddy.
Yep, we'll be back here in Extra Points in just a couple more minutes.